Devlin, Untamed. The platform.
iOS, it's only sport. Martin Devlin, Lachlan Ward, the one true daily independent radio sports show in this country. Continuing the big build-up to Sunday morning in Joburg. The All Blacks versus the Springboks. Justin Marshall from Joburg on the show today. More on Lydia Ko's stunning win at St Andrews with family friend, confidant and long-time coaching advisor, the former New Zealand professional John Lister. We talked some F1. Game on for the Constructors' Championship, but are the wheels wobbling for Verstappen's domination of the driver's side of it? Vincenzo Landino from F1 are also on the show. US Open, Lulu's son, Dave Worsley at the US Open. And the NRL admitting another bunker botch-up, again involving the Warriors, and again at a critical point in a match versus the Bulldogs. And Graham Annesley, who, remember, it was only weeks ago, said that no penalty decision for the hit on Harris Tavita when we lost 13-12 to the Bulldogs. He said that was unacceptable. Now we get told the latest bunker balls up is an error of judgment. Is that acceptable? We begin the show the same way every single day, which is tablets in hand. I say gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. Everyone's doing this, so it's Ko versus Carrington as we go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
Lydia Ko versus Lisa Carrington then for the Supreme Halberg Award at next year's awards. Every media outlet running opinion pieces and quickfire clickbait survey polls on this question, so we may as well jump in and do it too. Is it a straight shootout between these two women? I think given Ko's win yesterday, it now has to be. It's just incredible to think that in an Olympic year where New Zealand athletes won 10 gold medals, that 8 of those winners aren't really in this equation. And one of those, Elise Andrews herself, won 2 gold medals. Then you add Hamish Kerr, whose high jump was in a true blue ribbon track event, and think he's also going to be overshadowed. It just goes to show what an extraordinary year we've already had for sporting achievement. Team of the year, you'd think, is between our double scull gold-winning rowers in Paris, our Black Ferns Sevens doing likewise, and Team New Zealand if they defend the America's Cup again. Hamish Kerr should be a sure shot to win Sportsman of the Year, and Ko and Carrington competing for Sportswoman and the overall award. Now, 3 golds at any games for Carrington is such a compelling argument. Total domination of her sport once again, 8 golds in total around her neck. But this award can't factor in that, only what she won in Paris, which, as we know, is plenty anyway. But Ko backing up her Olympic gold with a major championship win will, I think, clinch it, because it's 2 different titles at 2 different world events. If Lydia had won just the gold, and when I say that, I'm not in any way undermining it, but 1 individual gold compared to 3, well, then the 3 has to win. If Ko had have only won the Women's British Open, that alone in any other year would be enough, given the true global nature of the sport and her being top dog at it. But Carrington, again, winning 3 would overshadow it. So it comes down to a shootout between Lydia Ko and Lisa Carrington. Can we all agree? Both well worthy. But I think Ko will win.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The platform.
Sports news headlines, Lachlan. What do we got?
I will start off with Lulu's son, who has taken the court at Flushing Meadows for her first match in the singles draw at the US Tennis Open in New York. She is up against Italian Lucia Bronzetti. Bronzetti up 4-3 in the first set. There's a slew of matches going on in both the men's and the women's singles draw, because today I think is officially the first day of first round matches. I'm not going to go through all of them. Rugby League NRL referees boss Graham Annesley has admitted Canterbury Bulldogs centre Stephen Crichton should have been sin-binned for a high shot that ended Warriors opposite Roger Tuivasa-Sheck's game and season. All he got was put on report, Crichton. All Blacks forwards coach Jason Ryan says the team are, quote, just getting on with it, following on from Leon McDonald's sudden departure as one of Scott Robertson's lead assistant coaches. Golf, new Women's Open champion and New Zealander Lydia Ko has jumped 9 places up to number 3 in the latest world golf rankings. This is a bit of a strange story because there was a story yesterday that contradicts it, but anyway, New Zealand's Liam Lawson could well get an F1 drive this weekend with Autosport reporting that Williams is considering replacing American Logan Sargent at the Italian Grand Prix at Monza this weekend. There was a story today on a New Zealand website reported by a New Zealand media group, company, however you want to describe it, that this wasn't happening, that Liam Lawson wasn't going to be driving for Williams. So that was talking about for the remainder of the year, but I don't know. I don't know what to believe. I'm not too sure. And just quickly looking back at the tennis snow update. Oh, suspended! The match is suspended. Martin, you've got it on a screen there. What's happened? It just says suspended.
Yeah, okay.
On my scorecard.
Yeah, I'm watching here. Come on, I've got to score. Okay,
We'll bring you more in a sec, but for the time being, that's what's making news.
Devlin.
Oh my goodness me!
The platform.
We've been told that it's raining here at the US Open, which is why they have suspended this match. It's a little confusing, though, because I'm just staring at the TV pictures, and there are people on court who are walking quite happily without umbrellas. There are people who have umbrellas. There are people in the crowd who have umbrellas. There are people who are sitting there without umbrellas. And those that are sitting there without umbrellas, there's one woman there in a singlet. She doesn't even have a baseball cap. There's guys out there with just T-shirts on. And no, they're not sitting under the roof bit because there's somebody sitting next to them who's shading under an umbrella. Obviously, this is court 12, so it's not the centre court, so no roof involved. Lulu's son serving 30-15 and down 4-3 in that first set. All Blacks versus Springboks for the heavyweight championship of the world in rugby. I know that Ireland are there as well, and they drew 1-1 over there, but it's us versus them, and this is the matchup that everyone always wants to see. Well, certainly down this part of the world anyway. Since the 2019 Rugby World Cup, we have played them 8 times. Third and fourth place playoff in Japan, we won that one. In 2021, we split the Rugby Championship 1-1. In 2022, we did exactly the same as well, you know. And last year, it was 1-1 before we went to the World Cup final, and they won that. Justin Marshall, do you ever get used to being in Joburg watching this one?
I guess it becomes really familiar when you've been to South Africa a lot and you get to know the idiosyncrasies of it, you know, because it is a place that you have to kind of, like, to put it in simplistic terms, respect, you know, because there are things to do and things not to do, and then equally in terms of training venues, altitude is a big factor in arriving here. You know, I don't think there's any secret in the fact that South Africa always set you up for that first test either in Johannesburg or Pretoria, because you've got to adjust for that week in terms of your training. And again, you get that dryness of the altitude and the fatigue that is not usual in places that you visit. But, you know, once you're used to it and you know the system, then you just basically click into your usual rhythm.
Leon McDonald leaving. What do you know about this? What have you heard about this? And look, these two guys are not only old teammates, they're great mates as well. So do you kind of get the feeling like I do that, I don't know, something's gone wrong here. I'm not sure that it's just a few arguments or something, but there's something gone wrong. Yeah.
And you would have thought that due diligence would have been done. And I was really surprised, actually. In fact, I was shocked, to be honest, when I heard the news. And look, we've been down this pathway before with these two coaches, obviously from a Crusaders perspective, where they were working together and then they couldn't work together. And Leon's ambition was to want to move on and be a head coach because he felt that he was hamstrung by being an assistant coach. And you would have thought that they had those conversations to make sure that those feelings that he had, which ultimately made him leave the Crusaders, had been sorted out and ironed out, and they had gone on the same page. But you know, I think quite clearly we've spoken about this, Marty. There's a lot of voices in that camp now, with lots of coaches in specific areas, and you just get the feeling that Leon wasn't getting his coaching boots on that he likes to have on, and maybe having the input that he wanted to have. And look, there's no doubt you've spoken to me, mate, and we've been, I guess, down this pathway before, that I'm not convinced that we are where we need to be, game plan wise, selection wise. And obviously, as an assistant coach, he felt that way as well. Ultimately, when I look at it, mate, at the end of the day, if he's feeling that way and he's not happy, the worst thing that you can have is somebody in that environment that's not happy, because it'll be 100% felt by the players. It'll be visible, even though you're feeling like you're keeping it to yourself or within the coaching group. And equally, if somebody's not happy with the philosophy, which is what we've heard, and the game plan and the direction that this team is going, then that person will have an adverse effect on the success of the team. So there was something that wasn't quite right, and to use that, the word they were using, they just weren't clicking, then the best thing has happened to get that out of that environment. Otherwise, it's dysfunctional.
Justin Marshall is with us. We're talking about, possible changes, potential changes, and you mentioned that, hey, you think the team's going to be the same as what we saw versus Argentina. Do we know our best team yet, do you think?
I don't think so, no. But what was really interesting to me, Marty, was how I actually stood and asked Scott Robertson after the test match against Argentina at Eden Park, and I said to him, okay, mate, now are you happy and comfortable with your selections? Because there's been a lot of debate. And he looked straight back at me and said, has there? And I said, yeah, and one of them on selection. Are you happy and comfortable that you know that you can select the team and the players and the individuals to go to South Africa and beat the world champions on their own soil? And his first response was to talk about TJ Perenara, and said, well, TJ Perenara I thought he was outstanding out there, the things that he did, blah, 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 blah. And to me, that felt like justifying selection. And I kind of looked at him and thought, that's interesting. But what you are saying is, yes, and the players that have been, I guess, under scrutiny and under criticism in their jerseys, I felt that they went out there and answered questions that I had asked of them. So, look, I feel that the selection is going to be very consistent across the board, and there's not going to be really any changes. So what we have to do, Marty, is show the defence something different. The last time we played them at Ellis Park and beat them and we were underdogs, we attacked from everywhere, including inside our own 22. Have we got the ambition and the guts to do that with the players that we know that Scott Robertson's going to select, to a degree that sometimes we're probably debating about whether or not they should be being selected? That's the tough one.
Who plays at 7? Does Sam Cane come back in?
Yeah.
See, again, you're waiting for this question. You knew it was coming, mate.
I don't feel that he will change from the back row that he picked at Eden Park. And like I said, I don't necessarily agree with it. But I think he will stick with that same back row of Papali'i, Blackadder and Ardie Savea at 8. Look, if I was perfectly honest, and this is not personal, it's just basically trying to be objective. I saw Sam Cane come into the test match, which I was really pleased to see. I felt that he deserved his opportunity, but I didn't feel that the team looked any different or grew in any way because of his presence on the field. So I just don't feel that he's come far enough to warrant selection. So, no, I would feel that probably he's going to stick with that 3 that I just mentioned, simply because he's not prepared to go with anyone else at number 8, is he? We've seen that. So he's not prepared to put Ardie at 7 and then go for a genuine out-and-out number 8 and someone like Finau or Blackadder on the side of the scrum. So in answer to your question in a long-winded way, which I always try to do, mate, and justify what I'm talking about,
Go on.
No, I don't see Sam Cane coming into the mix in the starting team.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
We need to talk.
Your favourite game, Lachlan?
We need to talk.
It used to be what is more chance of happening, but now, today, more specifically, it is...
Glass half full.
Glass half full we are playing here, people. After speaking to Justin Marshall, and we'll take this all the way to the news at the top of the hour, The Springboks say that they are a better side than they were last year when they won the World Cup. Next! Glass half full or glass half empty on that statement. Do you believe them?
That the Springboks are a better side now.
They say they're better than they were last year.
Yeah, but they also said something a bit stupid where they they were never actually trying to win the World Cup in 2019. It was part of the process to actually go and win it in 2023.
Yeah, well, I don't even know. I mean, that's just mismanagement speaking.
Well,
a
it's
whole
a bit
lot
of a dicky thing to say. Oh, we weren't even trying. We still won it. I don't know if I don't know. I would say glass half full purely because I think that Rassie Erasmus is a slightly better coach than Jacques Nienaber.
See, I'm going glass half empty because they've lost to Ireland this year, and who did they lose to last year at the World Cup?
Ireland.
Yeah. So what have they? Are they any better? They've split the series with Ireland. They lost to Ireland last year. Are they?
I'll trust
actually...
what others say, that their depth is continuing to improve. I mean, everyone in South Africa was going nuts over that first five who played against Australia. He's got a double-barreled last name that is so hard to pronounce. I'm not even going to try. I should probably learn, to be fair. I'd go glass half full, to be honest.
Next!
Artie at 8. Justin,
Glass
talking about
half
the loose.
empty.
Yeah, look, Artie's got to be in the team. No question at all. However, what is his best position? And especially against the Springboks. And are we inventive enough to admit that maybe 8 isn't to play them? Maybe we need some more height at the back, and maybe he would be better at 6 with Scott Barrett coming back, and Luke Jacobson plays 8, or maybe Satiti or somebody that is better at the line-out than Artie Savia.
Well, Satiti is the same height as Artie, or
Okay,
slightly
well, in that
shorter, so
case.
that's pointless. I mean, I always defer to Murray Mixted when it comes to loose forward expertise, and he goes on about height and size.
He does,
I don't
especially
think
against the
Scott
Boks.
Barrett should be playing blindside. It should be, if you're really hell-bent on height, it should be Summer Penny. So when you're talking about number 8, you can probably get away with Artie, but if you're going to play Ethan Blackadder, well, no, you need someone tall. But who is there?
Artie at 8 or Artie at 7 or Artie at 6 versus the Boks?
Probably 8.
Next!
Well, where do I think he should play, or where will he play?
Well, yeah, I mean, we know where he's going to play because, as Justin says, Scott Robertson's going to pick the same team that ran out against Argentina.
Thing is, if you didn't play Artie at 8, who plays there?
Okay, well, what about
Next!
Scott Barrett at 6?
No.
I'm going to argue for this.
Why? Why not at
Well,
lock?
because you've got
Who are our locks?
Sam Darry and Tubu Vai.
Oh, yay.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, that ended that argument.
Next!
Glass half full, glass half empty. Okay.
Of course, with all due respect,
But
of course.
glass half full with Scott Barrett back in the team. Let's be honest about that.
Yes,
He
glass
brings,
half full.
he brings the aggression and the abrasiveness. He brings the physicality you need.
Next!
Sam Kane at 7, glass half full, glass half empty.
Well, I'm glass half full over the prospect of it, but he's not going to be starting
Same.
at
Okay.
7,
And
so-
I don't think he's going to play Dalton Papali'i at 7 again, and Dalton's going to talk about the smackdown like he was going to put on Ireland, and he's going to be largely absent without leave for the 80 minutes. What, is that me being glass half empty, or is that me being realistic about this?
I think when
Come on,
you-
Dalton, step up and play your best rugby when it matters most against the most important opposition that we play against.
This is a man.
This is you. This is your chance to become a real All Black in my mind.
Well, really, his chance started probably in 2022 when the form of Kane was starting to be called into question. Same with the coach Ian Foster. So really, this is year number 3.
Yeah.
But this dude debuted for the All Blacks in 2018. 6 years ago. What has he done in
Exactly.
6 years?
Well, he's one of those. He's one
Nothing.
of those flat track bully All Blacks who plays really well against teams that we should be beating.
It's a bit like Sione Lauaki. Lauaki was superb, well, not superb, but he was great in Super Rugby. To have a couple of big performances, you're like, get him in the All Blacks. He'd do nothing for the All Blacks.
Well, Sam Penny exactly the same, mate. Glass half full,
Well, yeah,
glass
he's
half
dangerously becoming that.
empty.
Next!
Rico back at centre, and Justin raised this again. See, I don't. I
Glass
just
half empty.
look. I hope that he plays like the guy that I think he should be, but I just don't have the confidence that after 30-something tests at centre for the All Blacks, that all of a sudden he's going to pull that one out of his bag of tricks, because he just hasn't been.
He's 27, so he's not growing still, is he?
No, is he learning? Is he becoming a better player? Game after game, year after year?
Well, I haven't really seen it.
No, not
And
at
he's been
centre,
starting
no.
in that position since 2020.
And if he was going to have a blockbuster game, well, it would have been against Argentina, wouldn't it?
Well, he played well, but the whole team played
that's
well.
The thing. I mean, he played well on the back of a forward pack going forward.
Yeah.
I want to see it when the forward pack's going backwards. I want to see you dominate that back line at that time.
I think that Billy Proctor and Anton Leonard-Brown should be the two options cycled in and out for centre.
Next.
Glass half full, glass half empty. Will Jordan at 14.
Glass half empty.
Oh,
Put him at fullback.
say it with some pessimism and misery in your voice.
Put him at fullback.
Put him at fullback.
And put Bowden Barrett at first 5. And then put Damien McKenzie
That's how
on
I'd
the
start.
bench.
That's
what
exactly
I would do.
how I would start in Joburg.
But he won't do that.
And I wouldn't even mind. Well, Plummer on the.
You know, we did this.
Next.
You love Harry Plummer.
I love Harry Plummer.
I like him, but
I want him on
my
the bench.
gosh. But I'll tell you just quickly, I'll soak up another 20 seconds. You know, we did this a lot a couple of years ago when the show started, when we were losing a lot of tests. We were sitting here saying, oh, he should pick this, but he's not going to. Why isn't he doing this? You know, we talk like we know, like we're coaches, don't we?
Absolutely.
Like we've won a World Cup.
Mate, I've already won the America's Cup.
Next.
Finally, glass half full, glass half empty. The All Blacks' chances of winning. I'm going to ask
Glass
you
half empty. Glass
I'm going to ask you
half
every
empty.
day.
Glass half empty.
Mate, look at our track record. I mean, this is right. I've gone back.
Have you
Okay.
done your research?
6 of 7, 5 of 6, 5 of 9, 8 of 11,
No, it's
whatever it
not.
is. It
Now-
doesn't matter, Jack. Since 2019, you even go through the results. This All Black side is there any relevancy at all with how we played them in 2021?
Well, no, both
Is there
tests
any
were in Australia.
is there any relevancy then when we went there in 2022?
No.
What about last year's results?
More than the others because it's the same team.
Exactly. So it's
Well,
only
you could
12
probably
months
throw
ago.
2022 into there as well.
But the rest of it are just numbers. They're just stats on a stat sheet is all they are. New York City, where play has been suspended and Lulu's sundown is set. And our man Dave Worsley, who we just saw on the TV there, courtside lurking, always working, Dave.
Lurking, yeah. I don't know if that sounds so great, but I'm sure I look good there, Marty. Unfortunately, Lulu Sun is out. She had an issue at 4-3 down or 3-4 down, where she had to have the trainer come out and actually give her a little bit of treatment around. It looks like the hips or lower back. I mean, don't forget she's been playing a heap of tennis recently, and so she got that treatment, and then it started to rain a little bit, so it got a little bit delayed, and then eventually she lost the next game, which was pretty quick fire. Next couple of games there, pretty quick fire. You could see that she was in pain. She was grimacing. She could hardly move. Every now and then she'd just attack the ball and win the point, but her opponent managed to get enough balls in, and Lulu Sun having to withdraw at 6-3. She lost the first set and out of the tournament. A real shame there. She'd been in great form, obviously making Monterey final and lots of other great results of late. But perhaps maybe she needs to give her body just a little bit of a rest.
Yeah, I was watching that, and the physio working on the lower back, upper butt region, just all around there. She looked really stiff. I mean, she looked as though, as you say, Dave, that she's in trouble there, and you could just see the restricted movement.
Yeah, well, you've got to remember that she played the Monterey final, which I think she finished at about 10 p.m. on, I think it was actually Saturday. Now, Monterey's in Mexico, and so then you've got to go from there to come up to New York and got to deal with all the hassles of New York and also, of course, of hassles going through customs as well, which is not quick. Then you've got to get to your hotel. Then you've got to come out to the site. She managed to have one practice, and then she's playing late on Monday evening. So, it's part of their job, but it also does take a lot out of you. And I think it really did take a lot out of her today. It was pretty humid earlier on, a little bit cooler this afternoon or evening, and a few drops of rain as well. And that's when you could see her just tighten up. She was fine, it appeared, in the first few games, and they were keeping with each other, long rallies and having a big head against each other. So, one of those things there for Lulu Sun, the first New Zealander to play singles here at the US Open since 2015.
Oh, here we go. And you're going to ask me who that was. Can I say Irakovic?
You can, and you got Irakovic right. Well done.
Brilliant. All right, mate. And any other results today that we should be following or taking major notice of?
Well, there's been no real upsets or anything like that, but there's been a couple of massive games. You had Chris Eubanks, the American, playing 5 sets and comebacks and all that sort of stuff. And, of course, the chart, USA came out, which I kind of despise there, Marty. It's about up there with Aussie, oi, oi, oi.
The Tide 5.
5 separate sporting topics, roughly a minute or so on each. When the bell reminds us, we go on to the next topic. Warriors stiffed again versus the Dogs. Last time it was unacceptable. This time it's purely a judgmental error. either of those reasons from Graham Annesley acceptable, Lachlan? And speaking of Crichton's shoulder, should that be a red card? Because that was an absolute red card every day of the week in rugby. Yet in rugby league, he gets put on report. He doesn't get sin bin. Now he's going to miss a match. If you did that in rugby, you'd be missing 4, 5, maybe 6 weeks of rugby. Sven-Goran Eriksson has died at the age of 76 from pancreatic cancer. He was the England coach. I suppose he's been coach of many, many club sides, but that's how he got really, really famous. How do you rate him or look back at him as an England football coach, Locke? Jared Warrior-Hargreaves, he lasted 10 minutes. He came back from a 4-week suspension. He goes for another 3 weeks. He's going to miss the first round of the playoffs. Will he ever learn? Who is Darren Jansen and why is he now forever famous in US sporting history, Lachlan? Darren Jansen. Let's kick it off, though, with the Warriors. And once again, after the event, the referee boss turns around and says, they got it wrong. It just so happens, coincidentally, both of these matches have been against the Bulldogs. Both incidents at a time that were crucial in the games. If you remember from the 12-13 loss, with about 10 minutes to go, Harris Tavita got smacked in the head. The other guy broke his jaw, I think, didn't he? And eventually it was placed on report afterwards, and there was an apology when Annesley said it's not acceptable. This time, Crichton puts the shoulder in on RTS. He wobbles like he's been hit in a heavyweight bout. He ends up going for an HIA. He's stood down now for 11 days. That's the end of his season. You can't replace that guy. You can't put somebody else back on the bench. Crichton stays on the field. It's called a judgmental area. Unacceptable, judgmental. Are you happy with that from Graham Annesley?
No, and I'm not happy. You know, I love to give the Warriors a bit of stick because I'm not a fan and I love sort of poking the bear. But in truth, and being as impartial as I possibly can try to, the thing that frustrated me when there was first an issue a few weeks back, and it was the Dogs as well against the Warriors, was that he said it was unacceptable. I said, that's all well and fine, but how many times have you stood up there and said, oh, well, this was unacceptable, and nothing seems to have changed? You know, every time. It's like a kid that keeps on misbehaving in school and you keep giving them detentions. You know, after 4 years of committing the same offences at school, you know, you don't get to that point. You've probably suspended them or maybe even expelled them. It just becomes too much. It's a similar thing here. Year after year, well, week after week, year after year, Annesley has stood up there and either attempted to defend or has had to admit fault with what a referee has done on that weekend. And so it's frustrating because nothing seems to change. There still is issue or error in the way they operate, the referees. Now, I'm not one of these people that loves to bag the refs because I don't want to have to do their job. It's not a nice job. And I do feel sorry for them because I think that as the game is modernised, the rules have become far more complicated. There's more rules added. There's far more murkiness around a rule and how it gets. It's like offside in football. I bring it up a lot. That it's become now. It's an opinionated thing. You know, people. You know, an offside to you might be different to me. Yeah. That's the issue with a lot of rules now in rugby league.
That's as what it leads nicely into topic number 2. And in the opinion of the bunker, there were too many mitigating factors to put Crichton in the bin, and that's what the referee said. We're going to replay this audio for you shortly. That shoulder, that red card, well, it should be a red card. If that was in rugby, that would be a red card. This is what I don't...
No, it shouldn't have been a red.
Well, it's a red card in rugby.
It was certainly a sin binning.
How can it not be
because they're different sports. You can't say that. They're different sports.
Well, how is it a different sport?
I know that
it's
ugly
collision
cousins
with the head.
They're ugly cousins with each other, but they are different sports.
So what, a shoulder to the head is tolerated in one sport, but it's not tolerated in the other sport. That's what it is. That's as basic as it is.
But I agree with you. But these sports are governed differently. We've said it for a while that rugby has actually modernised itself, and it's frustrating to watch.
When's rugby league going?
Exactly. When's rugby league going to do it? So that.
When the class action comes.
Sure, it is when that, you know, and it's coming if it hasn't already started, because that's what's made rugby shift all of these rules and really hunker down in terms of the safety of the head. But with what went on, that consistently is not a red card. It's consistently a sin binning.
Okay, I mean, I get all of that, but I still think that the way that they officiate these is completely wrong. I want a class action. I want rugby league to be decimated by a class action. I want the game to wake up. Because after talking to Wally Lewis a couple of weeks ago, and the sadness of a guy like that who provided so much entertainment for us, who clocked so many around the mush, and so many of the guys that he played with as well are suffering from dementia and all kinds of mental illness because of it. And it's just the darkest secret in the game. And at least rugby's open enough now to admit that it looks back in shame. But rugby league doesn't. Rugby league's got its head in the sand when it comes to this. And every week I see it and I cringe at some of these tackles. And I look at Waria Hargraves, who we're going to talk about in a minute as well, and go, how the hell can you still be playing, mate? When obviously nothing gets through to you. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck took a shoulder. You saw him try and get up. It's like he'd been king hit in the ring.
Yeah, we're stumbling around. Yeah,
and yet nothing. And Crichton gets a one-match ban for that.
I think this is going to sound a bit almost devil's advocate-y. I think the issue with both the sports is that for a long time, and the NFL was like this, it bathed in the luxury that it could place the blame on the athlete. Blame's not the right word, but it could place onus on the athlete by saying, hey, look, this is a contact sport you've chosen to play.
Yep.
And I think that rugby league's very slow to get to that point. Rugby union now is realising that, look, we can sit there and say that you guys decided to play the sport, but at the same time, we're then excusing maybe some negligence of a bloke who now is for lack of a better term, is a vegetable in a retirement village and can't operate properly as a human being. So we should try and do something.
Every weekend I watch the sport and I love the NRL. I just think, how on earth, were you people?
Part of the issue with the NRL and rugby league is it's actually not a globalised sport. I think if it was very much in the public eye globally, it would be different. Rugby union is.
It's played in both hemispheres. It gets a lot of publicity.
Well, I know, but okay, what's the pinnacle of rugby league? It's the NRL.
Yeah.
Where is the NRL consumed?
Yeah.
It's New Zealand and Australia. Yeah. Whereas rugby, the pinnacle of it is international, which is consumed around the world.
Let's talk about Waria Hargraves. Old school, everyone says. The bring back the biff kind of guy. Is he just stupid, or he just is so long in the tooth that he can't control his own technique? Because he was on the field for 10 minutes on the weekend for the Roosters against the Titans. He's just come back from a 4-week ban. And, these are tackles that you're not meant to make, and he knows that he's not meant to make them, and he's done nothing at all. If this was rugby, you'd be forced to go through that humiliating process of tackle school and filling out forms and doing videos and sending them off to the IRB and everything else, right? Yet Waria Hargraves, it just doesn't seem to occur to this guy. Every day he's still upright in his tackles. He still leads with the shoulder. He still swings the arm.
Yeah. He hasn't adjusted. He hasn't changed his style.
Changed at all.
Maybe that's easier said than done. Maybe it's harder to actually do. Now, it doesn't help.
Well, what does his team think of him, do you think?
Yeah.
But, dude, we can't rely on you. You're going to be playing less than half a game every time you play, mate. Then you're out for the next 3. We've actually got to move on. If I'm the Roosters coach, I'll be saying, I can't look at you for the final series, mate. You're a hazard.
Yeah. But at the same,
I like the guy, Gerald. Don't get me wrong. And I like, I've always loved him as a player. But, this is just ridiculous now, isn't it? How many suspensions can you cop, mate? And every one of them is cumulative. So, you've been suspended last week.
That's another argument. He's consistently suspended, has been throughout his whole career. If you're the judiciary, you sit there and go, oh, Jared, okay, that's suspension number, 54 of your career.
Exactly.
Can't you just go, you know what? Sorry, mate, you're gone for the rest of the year. Repeat offender. You're gone for the rest of the year.
Just quickly, Darren Jansen, why is he now forever famous in US sporting history?
I don't know. Who is it?
Remember the name. This is one of those peculiar Major League Baseball stories.
Oh, is he the White Sox catcher?
Yeah, well, he was.
He was a catcher.
No, he was playing for the Toronto Blue Jays on the 26th of June against the Boston Red Sox. The game was suspended because of rain. A day later, when they resumed the game, he'd been traded to the Red Sox and he rolled out in a Red Sox uniform to resume that same game back against the Toronto Blue Jays.
Was this in June?
This is in June.
Because I got a notification about it this morning.
Oh, the game was on the 26th of June. It's one of the most peculiar things in sport that you can get traded while you're playing a game.
But shouldn't you then be...
We've seen some great footage of guys who burst into tears standing on third base because they just get the message from somebody else that actually, dude, as soon as you round home, just keep going straight to the locker room, pick up your stuff and get on the plane because you're gone.
But wouldn't there be a rule saying that because you started the game for one team, you can't play for the other team in the same game? Because it's like the Champions League, for example. If you're a player, let's say this is what happened to Coutinho. He was playing for Liverpool, mid-year got signed or sold to Barcelona, And there was rules saying that he wasn't allowed to play for Barcelona because he'd already played that season for Liverpool.
Yeah, so what actually happened, so he was actually at the plate when the game was suspended because of rain. So the next day, what they had to do was put another guy in his place. So he's on the team sheet. So he didn't actually run out and actually, go because he was at bat. So they had to actually replace him. So, but,
so the game was on so the game did it start on June 26th and they made up for it today. Well, yesterday, because the notification only came through.
Yeah, that's right. So they've only just made up.
That's a big delay between games.
It is, isn't it?
Finishing a game.
Devlin,
Have you seen my wiener?
the platform.
Graham Annesley in July.
We think this is a miss by the match officials and it's unacceptable.
That was the shoulder hit to the head of... No, it was a face-on-face, wasn't it? Because he broke his jaw. That was the Dogs versus the Warriors over there. And then, of course, on the weekend, well, that was a cock-up, and we know that because Annesley yesterday...
It's purely a judgment error. The bunker official involved didn't give due consideration to the impact of the tackle. They do have kind of criteria that they look at, and you hear them talking about that sort of thing, but ultimately they have to make an assessment of how serious that particular incident was, and it was purely a poor judgment call.
So what do we want to conclude from this? Just what, driver error, human malfunction, guy gets something wrong, so we're meant to forgive and forget? Or are you more the conspiracy theory and not ready to let go just yet? 5050 on the text for that. Formula One, blah, blah, boring, blah, blah, Max Verstappen, blah, blah, Red Bull winning, blah. Oh, hang on a second. Not the last few races, 5 in fact. He took off like an absolute rocket, winning 7 out of the first 10, Max Verstappen. But just hold that thought a little. Handbrake up as McLaren get much more competitive and is certainly hunting Red Bull down for the Manufacturers' Championship. He's still got a hell of a lead, Verstappen, in the Drivers' Championship. But that Constructors, still up for grabs. Vincenzo Landino works in F1 commercial partnerships. He joined us to discuss. Vincenzo, Max Verstappen hasn't won in 5 races since that time. Lando's won 1, Piastri's won 1, Russell's won 1, Lewis has won 2. We look for patterns, of course. Is this a pattern, and what can you put it down to?
Is this a pattern? I think it is a matter of teams catching up in terms of development, and McLaren has done the best job, hands down, in developing or sticking with their program and what they wanted to accomplish. And now we're seeing that Red Bull truly does have some competition. They're not as far ahead as we all once thought.
So was that an inevitability for you that was going to happen throughout the season? What exactly have they done that you can see? Or is it more that Red Bull, that their car has just run out?
I think there was a few things. One, this may be the conspiracy of the day, and Red Bull fans may not like to hear it, but there was a technical directive that had come down that stopped the use of braking bias. I don't know the whole technical engineering term, but there was a directive that had come down. A lot of speculation was that it was to essentially hurt Red Bull. A lot of folks, including Red Bull fans, but also engineering individuals, said that Red Bull was not using this braking bias to their advantage, meaning that they could change how the car brakes in certain corners and move the brake bias to the left or to the right, front and back, in a certain way. And we saw that the Red Bull was, I don't want to call it undrivable, but it looked like a shopping trolley out there. Max trying to turn the car one way and it wouldn't turn. It really wouldn't go the way he is used to. He likes a very pointy car, meaning you input a little bit of steering and it will go in that direction. We saw none of that at the Dutch Grand Prix. And so it's very possible that this technical directive may hurt them the most, but I think it boils down to the fact that The teams have had, 2+ years now to develop these cars and to work with these current, programs, and they've caught up. And this is, we see this happen. This is not new to just this particular era, but I think that's really where we are in just a development cycle where teams will catch up. And so that'll give us a competitive rest of the year. And we should see another competitive, 2025 as well. So up until 26, when things change again, somebody will become the clear leader at the beginning, and then eventually it'll all start to level out. And I think we're just in that leveling out phase of development. Ferrari's going to be bringing some upgrades here at Monza coming up. Mercedes, like you mentioned before, Mercedes had multiple wins over or since Max last won. So and they were a surprise. No one expected that to happen. So yeah, I think all of that is just a culmination of where we're at in this development cycle.
Lando, when you look at who has won what, pole positions and so forth at the start of the year, Verstappen, the 7 first poles, he won 5 of the first 7 races, 7 of the first 10 races, hasn't won in 5 though. Has anything changed about the way that he is driving? Anything at all that you've noticed?
Not particularly. I think he's getting a little more frustrated with the fact that the car is not, it's not as pliable as maybe he would like it to be. It seems a little more stiff than what he's used to and what he's become accustomed to at Red Bull, especially this year, where it looked like at the beginning he was very dominant. We know that they were playing around with floor specs this week at the Dutch Grand Prix, very likely to test or to compare the old spec to the current spec to see if there's any other changes that they can make going forward. So that's very possible to have been something to, I'll say hurt Max, but he still came in second place, right? So it's not like he was completely off the radar. And if Max gets second places for the rest of the year, Lando would have to win every race and get fastest lap. So second place works for Max right now. He's not in a position where he needs to win the races. He just needs to outscore, Lando Norris by, I forget the exact number of math, but I think it's like he just needs to be ahead of him by a certain number per race. Or I'm sorry, Lando needs to outscore Max by at least 8 or 9 points for every race the rest of the season. That's a tall task, right? That's there's still 9 races. There's a lot of things that can happen. Like we mentioned, there's a lot of other teams that are also doing really well. So there's a lot of competition. I don't think Max has changed the way he's driving. I think it's just the fact that a lot of other teams are catching up. There's a lot of quality on the grid in terms of drivers, and it's maybe he's not taking it as seriously. I don't think that's the case. He's a true racer at heart. But yeah, I think if Red Bull makes a couple changes here, and things get back to where it's the way Max likes the car, we're going to see Max be just fine. I don't think he suddenly forgot how to drive a car.
What a fabulous fortnight for Lydia Ko as well, winning the Women's British Open yesterday to go with the gold medal at the Paris Olympics. Well, one man who has spent an awful lot of time around Lydia, and that's since she was just a little kid. He helped her on golf driving range, and then on course. Still a close, confident family friend. They're in touch regularly and were even exchanging messages after Lydia's win yesterday. I'm talking about John Lister, who was our leading professional, played all of the majors in the 1970s. And not only that, he actually has a world golfing record that he shares with Tiger Woods and Tiger Woods alone. How good is that? Anytime you can get on a list where it's just you and that guy. What am I talking about? It's 4 consecutive wins at any professional tournament. John Lister won the Garden City Classic from 72 to 75. And Tiger Woods won the Bay Hill Invitational from 2000 to 2003. They're the only 2 in the record books who have ever done that feat in golf. John Lister on Lydia Ko. Is Lydia playing the best golf of her life right now?
No, her mother says she played better when she was 15. But, no, seriously, yeah, she's doing fantastic. And maybe the best is yet to come.
Well, what have you liked from the last few weeks? I mean, gold medals in Paris, winning the Women's British Open as well. Why all of a sudden right now has this consistency come?
I think a lot of it's got to do with her coach that she has at the moment. And he's online, but he's just got her doing drills rather than filling her head with technique.
How important is that?
Very important. You cannot play golf when you're thinking about technique. If you're thinking about technique, you're playing golf swing. And that's not the game of golf.
What's he doing? I mean, what can you notice that he's done to improve her then?
I noticed that her swing is much more free-flowing and rhythmic than it has been. So it says to me that her mind is possibly focused on the target and not worried about how she's swinging the club.
And that is so absolutely important, isn't it, to just be able to get out there and to hit the ball without overthinking it?
Oh, absolutely. It's key. You have to be single-minded focus on your target. The aim of golf is not to hit the ball. It's actually to hit the ball to somewhere. And that's what she's doing magnificently. And the second shot that she hit at the 17th hole in the last round was one of the most remarkable shots I've seen in my life.
Well, look, I got a text from our good mate Brendan Telfer yesterday, and the first thing he said, he says, because he always educates me with golf, he said, Martin, now you will ask John tomorrow about two shots, the second on 17 and her wedge shot into 18. So let's talk again on 17, because it's not just the quality of the shot, it's pulling it out at that time. Then you add in the pressure of the situation, John, then you add in the weather as well, into rain and wind as well. So you've got to calculate that all in your head and almost produce a perfect swing. And as we know, anyone that wins any of these tournaments, it normally comes down to, doesn't it, on the back nine to one or two specific shots. So talk us through 17 to start with.
17 is the toughest hole in golf, bar none. It's called the road hole. Your tee shot, you have to go out of bounds, over the out of bounds, close to the hotel or over part of the hotel that's on the border of the course. And the fairway is blind. You can't see the fairway. But anyhow, then the second shot is to a green that sits at an angle to you with a roadway running behind it and a fiendish bunker in front of the green, or the front left of the green. Lydia drove it very nicely in the middle of the fairway, but as she's about to play her second shot, the rain started coming sideways, and I mean torrential rain. And she has to play this shot with a hybrid club or a fairway metal to the screen. Normally you aim only to the front right-hand corner of the green. That's the safest shot. She hit a wonderful shot up onto the green and within 20 feet of the hole in these terrible conditions. That's what champions do. Her two closest pursuers both bogeyed the hole later on after her in fine weather. But she made an easy par, and that was set her up for the birdie at the last hole.
John Lister is with us. We're talking about Lydia Ko. I've got to say this, John, because this is just an incredible stat. John won the Garden City Classic 4 consecutive times, 72 to 75. Now, that 4 consecutive wins, people, in a professional tour event is a record that he shares alone with a guy called Tiger Woods, who won the Bay Hill Invitational from 2000 to 03. Anytime you can be on any list with that guy, John, I mean, that's just forever. And I love that stat, and I always want to bring it up when I'm talking to you. Let's go to 18 then. And that putt the final putt, to birdie the 18th hole of a major championship. And it was a tricky little left to right. Like when you watch it again, it's just so perfectly measured. Again, clutch at the time you have to be.
That's exactly what champions do. And, I mean, once I saw her hit a shot into where she did, I thought there is no way she will miss this putt. And sure enough, centre cut. Never looked like going anywhere else.
No, it didn't, did it? Yeah. And look, and I was watching her afterwards, and with the earmuffs on, it must have been bitterly cold. The sun had come out and everything. And then, obviously, when she'd realised it was her and she'd won, and just that shot, the emotion with the caddy and everything like that, she comes across so well. She comes across as such a genuine person as well. And I wanted you to talk about that because you know her well.
Marty, to be honest, she's a better person than she is a golfer.
Wow.
And she's a fantastic golfer. She replies to every email I send her within the day. I sent her one yesterday morning after the tournament, and this morning I had a reply. And she is such a humble person, a proud New Zealander, and just a wonderful ambassador for our game.
That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
You better believe it!
The Platform.